what would help them make that progress. And out of this thinking, one of the big insights for me and others has been that product categories or demographics categorizing the world by traditional data just misleads us. And so the classic case that Bob did, actually, for M&M Mars was that they were worried that Milky Way and Snickers bars were in effect cannibalizing sales from each other. Because they're both candy bars, after all. You find them in the same part of the grocery store and the like. But when Bob looked into this for them, what he realized is that they're hired for two fundamentally different jobs to be done. Snickers bars are hired when you need a meal replacement. You're on the run, you missed a meal, and you're hungry, and you grab and go, because Snickers really satisfies, right? You're not you when you're hungry. But those slogans, which you might not know, came out of the research, and they actually then were able to change the product, the Snickers bar itself, to make sure that it's satisfied and could compete against its competitors, which were things like Cliff bars, RX bars, things like that. Milky Way hired as a consolation. Go, Bob.
Can I just give one example? If
Yeah.
you just look in the picture, right? The subtle difference is the caramel in a Snickers bar has a higher melting temperature. So when you bite it, it masticates into a ball, and you swallow it like food. But the caramel in the Milky Way actually melts very low temperature. So when you take 3 bites of it, or 3 chews of it, it's liquid, and you drink it down. And it's all about coating your mouth and all that kind of stuff. So literally knowing what the job was and knowing what the competitive set was helped us understand how to actually change the design of the product to actually do the job better. And so it's starting from what consumers, when do they pull it into their lives and how do they use it is actually the most important part of being any part of any innovation project that I work on.
And so that, I think, actually sets us up perfectly to say, how do you discover a job to be done? That it basically goes through every job decision, if you will, goes through this timeline where there's a first thought that something in my life is not what it could be. There's a struggling moment, and that if I could just find a way to make progress, this could be better. And it sends you into this phase of passive looking. You're not actively looking for a solution in your life to help solve this or make progress, but you're passively looking. And then there's typically some sort of first event that triggers something and causes you to move into this active looking phase. And then a little bit further down, there's a second event, which basically sets the timeline, the time dimension or time horizon over which the decision has to be made. And you go into deciding mode, and then you make what we call as the big hire. And then, so in this case, that would be choosing college, enrolling, whatever it might be. And then there's a series of little hires. The courses you'll take, the clubs you'll join, and things of that nature. And afterwards, you can look back and say, were you satisfied with that experience based on your entering expectations and the job to be done you were trying to hire? And when we do these interviews, we basically are trying to capture forces. So an important part of a job to be done is it's not just one thing that's pushing someone or pulling someone to make a change in their life. It's a range of forces that are acting on them. And a job to be done is basically clustering those forces or those sets of reasons that are causing someone to make a change. So the first part of it is the push of today, the push of the current situation, basically saying something isn't quite what it could be. There's a struggling moment. I could get better if, sort of when something is not good enough, that I start to look for a change. And then there's the pull of a new solution that says, oh gosh, that it enters into this space in your brain as something that could help me solve this challenge that I'm having, that is pushing me. These so I can moments that say, if only I could do X, then I could solve this challenge or make progress. Now, that's what propels you toward making a change, but equally we see things that are pushing back against you making that change. So anxieties, things that you worry about the new solution that say, oh, but if I go to that college, will I be able to afford it? Will there be students like me that, or will I be the imposter? All these anxieties start to slip into your head. And equally so, your habits, what you're doing today, the old way, they are often sticky. And so the push and the pull have to overcome the habits and anxiety for a switch to actually occur and you actually to do something. Now, really quick, because I suspect some of you, that there's a range of jobs to be done that you all have coming into this talk. Some of you probably want the summary of the book that we did, Choosing College. We're selling that, I believe, and signing that, so you can get that afterwards. But I'll give you the really quick summary of just the 5 jobs to be done that we discovered. And I'm going to do my best on this.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
So the first one is help me get into my best school. So these were students who were all about they had done the work, they had done their best. They were seeking to get in the best for them as they defined it. But it was less about what they would do in the school and more about the act of getting in. Sure, they would say things like, I wanted the classic college experience or the beautiful brick and mortar campus, the campus quad, reinvent myself with new people, but it was much more about the act of getting in and then their job had been fulfilled as opposed to what they would do once they were there, which was much foggier. The second one we found was sort of the flip side of this, which helped me do what's expected of me. So these were students running from something, but not necessarily towards something. And they were, excuse me, I just jumped jobs.
You did.
Yeah, sorry. Help me do what's expected of me is they were doing it to obey or satisfy someone else in their life who basically said, you've got to go to college. It was the logical next step in their life. And they said, I've got to do something and I can't see any other options besides schooling. And they went to obey someone else, but they were incredibly apathetic about it. The energy level that they had around choosing was incredibly low. Turns out not a great reason to go to 4-year school is the spoiler alert.
Right.
The third one, yeah, go ahead.
Even MBA. The thing is
Yeah.
think of it as to become a partner at a consulting firm, you've got to get your MBA. The fact is they feel like they don't have to go get their MBA, but for them to actually become partner, they have to check the box. And so it's this whole notion of like, how do they choose? What do they choose? It's a very different set of value code when they do that kind of, when they're in that job.
Yeah. Third job we found was help me get away. So these were students running from something, but not necessarily towards something. And school was something that they could say socially that they were doing that made sense to people in effect. Also not a great reason to go to a large commitment or a large price tag. The fourth job we found was what we called help me step it up. So these were students who basically said, what I'm doing right now isn't who I am. And it's now or never because something triggered in their life, someone was depending on them for something. And they're like, I've got to step it up so that I can be more and provide more for them because I don't like where things are headed if I don't make this move now. Okay? A lot of adult learners in this job who were seeking to step it up. You'd see it in high school students too, but they'd often, instead of hiring college, they would hire the military. If you're familiar with Hillbilly Elegy and J.D. Vance, when he went to the military, he was clearly looking to step it up. Last job we found, what we call help me extend myself. So these were students, this is what I think of as the lifelong learning job. Nothing was really pushing them per se in their current circumstance, but they were looking to be more, challenge themselves, learn more, because they had this strong yearning that they could always be more. And if it didn't work out, by the way, they could just go back to doing what they were doing before. And so we saw a lot of adult learners in this job as well. A lot of them, for example, women who had left the workforce, who then they had kids, and they were now looking to get back in, because it was very emotional and personal to them. And actually, I see Goldie in the audience. He wrote a piece about the adult learners needing permission to attend. This was in this job. Like, if they didn't get permission almost explicitly from a peer, a parent, their institution, they almost couldn't go. And the bigger risk was, it was really low risk for them to go and attend. The bigger risk was paralysis, that they didn't do anything at all. So that is a very quick summary of the 5 jobs. And what we want to do for you is actually show you an interview live so that you can start to understand how to conduct and find out a job to be done. And then if we have time, some implications and how you'd start to design for it for the entrepreneurs and educators out there.
Yep.
So Bob,
So
you want to find
we're going to start with selecting somebody from the audience to interview, believe it or not. So any entrepreneurs in the room, stand up. Okay, so if you recently, I'll say in the last 3 to 5 years went and got your MBA, stay standing. If not, sit down. Okay, so now everybody's like, uh-oh. Where did you go to school? BU. And what did you do before you went to BU? Okay, and then you came back and basically went to school. And where did you do your undergrad? How about you? Where did you go to get your MBA? At BU. And what did you do before?
I worked in youth development nonprofit.
Okay. And then where did you get your undergrad?
Williams College.
Okay. And are you from Boston?
No.
Are you from Boston? Okay. And go ahead.
I'm doing my MBA from Babson,
Yeah.
and I'm an international student.
And where were you? What did you do before you went to school?
Working in sales and some startups.
Okay. I'm gonna.
What do you want?
It's all right. if we-
Yeah, go for it.
Would you mind coming up and being interviewed?
Yeah.
Perfect. Here, let's put him in the center. So
Yeah, all right, sounds
we
good.
can surround him.
Surround him, and make him feel really comfortable.
So
By the way,
Thank you so
like he's having some guts right now.
now we need to get him a mic. So do we have a mic, an extra mic that we can, or the roaming mic we can get him? We need a mic back up here. Just sit
Now,
in
the
the
one
center
thing
here.
while he sits down, we get him a mic. Generally, these interviews take about 45 minutes to an hour. We've got about 25 minutes or so we'll do our best.
So-
yep.
There we go. Just please have a seat. And your first name?
Abdul.
Abdul. Welcome, Abdul.
Hey, thanks for
So now that he's sitting, I can tell you how this was all established. So in the beginning, when I developed products, I started to realize that people would lie to me about what they really wanted. And they wouldn't lie on purpose. It was like they either didn't know what they really wanted or they didn't have the language. And so when you ask people like, what are you going to have for lunch next, Tuesday? You go like, chicken sandwich. Right? And so the thing is and I can actually do a large enough sample size to say like, 37% of people want chicken sandwich for next Tuesday. But that's not what causes you to have a chicken sandwich. Talk to you, tell me about the last time you had a chicken sandwich, and we understand the context wrapped around it. It's like, I had these things a few days before, I was gonna have this later. And all of a sudden you start to realize the context makes sense. So we only talk to people who've actually struggled and made the choice. Because the people who haven't struggled and literally are wishing, like when I built houses for a while, you realize people want everything for free. I want it all. But you had to make a choice and you had to make some trade-offs to come, right? And do what you wanted to do and what you had to give up. So part of this is to understand his story and put it back into the terms of what pushed him, what pulled him, what anxieties did he have, what habits did he have to give up. So how did he make progress and what was he hoping for the moment he's like, I'm in school? Okay?
I'll try to put the timeline. I'll try to put that slide up. Just,
Yep. All right,
Can you put the slide back up just so I can flash the.
All right.
You want the timeline slide up?
So here we go. So this is just, I'm just gonna put this here. Welcome, Abdul. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. We're doing very early research to basically understand how students decide to come back to school or decide to go to school. And so, to be honest, I don't have a list of questions. To be honest, we're really just trying to get the language. So first of all, I'm gonna interrupt you a lot, and I apologize up front. But the reality is what we want to do is hear your words, not where are you at Babson? Yeah, how Babson talks about their program. I want to know how you talk about the program and what you heard and what you were hoping for and how you decided to say like, yep, I'm going to stop selling. I'm going to actually go into debt and decide to go back to school. And what was that school going to help you do? Okay? No right or wrong answers. Here, you got to hold the mic up to help them do it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
get it. So no right or wrong answers. And for the most part, let's start with, tell me a little bit about you and what you did before you went to school.
Sure. So I'm originally from Pakistan.
Okay.
And did my undergrad from a decent college
Yeah.
there in Pakistan.
Okay.
Worked for I would say like top 5 consumer goods companies in
Okay.
Pakistan for 6 years.
What kind of products?
It's a consumer, so healthcare and consumer goods. So, for example, Lysol and then
Oh, yeah.
all those company
Yeah.
products. So it's
Got it.
called Reckitt Benckiser.
Oh yeah, I know Reckitt.
Yeah,
Very
so-
good. And so you got what'd you get your undergrad in?
Business.
Okay.
Media.
And so at what point in time, and you did it for 5 years, you said before?
Worked 6 years.
And so what was going on that basically said, you know what, I should go back to school and get my MBA?
Yeah, I mean, after graduating, I had not thought about doing an MBA as per se.
Yeah.
But there was a dream that I should do at some point in time that I should do a master's degree.
Yeah. Your dream or your parents' dream?
I would say it would be yes. I agree. It's a combination of how my parents and the societal pressure has made me think
Yeah.
that it would be a good thing to do.
So just to get it right, it's like, yeah, okay, go to college. All right, I go to college. I graduate, I get a degree, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you should probably go back and get your master's.
Yeah.
Right. And is it work that's doing that, or is it really your parents?
Sorry.
Is it really was work pushing you, like the people at Beck?
I would say it was more of a peer pressure rather than my parents,
Wow.
because a lot of my students, like my fellow classmates
Yeah.
who had graduated with me, were then going on to do their masters. So then that kind of pushed me to, okay, now I should just think about doing a master's.
So they did it earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
some of them did it earlier than me, and I would
So was this more that you were like kind of feeling left out, or that they left you for wait, where'd you guys go? I mean, was this more like or
You're the only one on the
you're the only
company
one in the company who's
still,
not doing it, or like how like I'm trying to understand how you felt as you're like seeing everybody else go.
Yeah. So I think also just seeing them going for master's degree and then learning new things and then talking about the things that they are learning.
Yeah.
And also the things that they are doing, like internships or even like post-graduation, the jobs.
Yeah.
That kind of made me, pushed me to, okay, now I
Got
should
it.
just...
And from your job perspective, did you like your job, or was it one of those things where like I can do better?
It was good. Like I would say, probably in the top tier, like where I got
Yeah.
5 promotions in 6 years.
Nice.
So, but it
So you were
was
successful at it.
it was good, yeah. So it was good and from the career perspective, but it was just that I knew that there would be a ceiling where if I don't get an MBA or a master's degree, I might not go to a director of sales.
So tell me more about the ceiling. What is that? What do you mean ceiling?
So it's like whoever is the director of sales or the general manager
Yeah.
would have an MBA degree.
Got it. So game off for a second. So we have a game on, game off. Game off is.
We get to talk to you.
I thought I knew the answer to it, but this is part of this is I have to ask the question to make sure I get his answer to those questions. And so part of this is about actually digging very deep to understand like he got 5 promotions, right? In 5 years?
6 years.
6 years. Pretty good. But look, I can't go any farther if I don't get the MBA, because and I might get 2 or 3 more promotions, but I already see the ceiling. Where when I came in, I didn't know there was a ceiling. Now I know there's a ceiling. That's a push. That's a push that's saying I got to go back to school if I want to make it farther in this thing. The other push is my friends are coming back and talking about all this cool stuff they're learning. Like I feel like, so I'm going to imply, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like I feel like I'm not learning what they're learning, and I'm actually falling behind because all of a sudden they're doing stuff and they're going to come back with their MBA and they're going to get this job that I want. Close?
Well, and there's 2 dimensions there, right? There's the pull so I can learn that stuff, but even more importantly, when I'm not learning that
That's
stuff.
right.
They're all racing ahead.
And so as much as
Or I would say I call it like fear of missing out.
Yeah. It's the FOMO.
FOMO.
But the reality is he'll say, I want to learn, but the reality is the force that's pushing him is like, hey, everybody else is learning and you're not. And so it's like, okay, and I want this promotion and you're not going to be able to get it. So part of it is shaping up this push side of the world. So how many?
Game back on.
Yes, game back on. So sorry, but I'm a little hyper. So tell me a little bit about the process. When did you take the GMAT? Like how? Like if I draw a timeline, like where are we? Like when did you actually go to Babson? Or is this your first semester or second semester?
Yeah, so I'm currently at Babson.
Yeah. Did you go? When did you start? Last September or a year ago September?
No, it's just a 1-year
got-
MBA.
it's a
so
1 year.
This May.
Okay, got it. And so when did you actually start to think about like I got to do something about this?
Good question. So this was actually 2014. When
What?
2014.
But wait,
Sorry.
it's 2020
Well,
right now.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay, keep going.
All right. What happened?
So believe it or not, like GMAT, probably if there are any MBAs around, it's the most tough part in an MBA journey.
Yeah.
Which is you have to take out time from your work, family, and all, and then just study the GMAT, because at that stage, I was out of my undergrad or
Yeah.
study mode for quite a long bit of time.
Well, 5 years or 6 years, 5 promotions. You're rocking it at work. You're, like at some point studying is not there, and then you got to go back into it. So 2014 is when you had I should probably do something, and you're hearing about it. But 2014 is when you started to study finally.
when I started to study finally, and then I decided like, okay, now is the time to do my MBA, and then let's start GMAT.
And how?
That's the first process.
And how many times did you take the GMAT?
2 times,
Yeah.
and when I would say like 3 times. The reason why I'm
Wait a
saying
second.
3
Two times or 3 times?
3 times.
Okay. Tell me why. What,
So, I mean that the situation might be very individual to me,
yeah.
and
Fun.
because
it is your
It's your
story.
story.
That's
It's your
all we
story.
want
No
is
one
your story.
else's.
This
No
is
one
nobody else's story, and we're not judging. We're just trying to understand. So don't like this is where you struggle, right?
yeah.
So you took it 3 times. Like what happened the first time?
So the first time I was aiming for 650, just couldn't get it. Got around 600. Thought I'm not gonna get into any school at all. So I
Stopped.
stopped. And my wife was also at that time, like I and my wife both decided to do MBA, and then she got a great score. So, and she is amazing. So
And so I said, what does your wife do?
she also came for MBA.
Yeah, but she
At the time.
at the time, what was she doing? Was she working at?
Yep.
So you both worked at the same workplace?
No,
or
she was working for a competitor.
So a competitive household and in the same kind of products.
Yeah, CPG. She
And you
she
both
was
go to the same
working for
college?
Procter and Gamble.
Oh, she worked for P&G, and you're working for Reckitt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting house. I just want to know how you clean your bathroom. That's
Yeah, that's,
different.
so it's Unilever,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
the third company.
Yeah, that's right. So, because you can't use one or the other, so we'll use Unilever, who's the independent third party. Yeah, you got it. Beautiful. So wait a second. So where did you meet your wife? What's your wife's first name?
Oh, Oneza.
Onaza. Onaza?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. And did you meet her at university?
Yeah,
Okay. So and you got married, and then you went to Reckitt, and she went to P&G, and then you start to hear your friends doing all this stuff. And is Onaza really the one who wanted to go back, or was it you, or did you both talk about it at the same time?
Yeah, we both talked about the same time, and that's when we were thinking about, let's go. Maybe this would be a good enough break from the work, and then we could just go study together. So that was the plan.
Got it. So part of this was helping you kind of like you both can go at the same time. So let's both go do this together.
Absolutely.
Got it. And so did she want it as much as you did, or did you want it more than she did, or was it equal?
I would say like she was always the smarter one, so I know she's gonna get.
Well, that was obvious through the test score, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that test score was just the writing on the wall.
Just confirmation.
Just the confirmation.
Game off. Part of this is humor. You have to loosen them up. You have to be able to get them to understand and make sure. So I never ask about his wife. We talk about her name. Everything is about basically making sure we hear the story as it does because we want to get the emotion, right? Sorry, game back on. So I'm at the scene where you get a 600, she gets a
720.
And you just go, I married up. This is awesome. Right? Yeah. But now you both can't go. And so did she apply? Or did you both decide not to apply because?
No, so that's when I said like maybe I just screwed up. I will study even harder, and then I'll give it one more time and see if
Another
I can.
push right there, like she's gonna go, I can't go. Like we gotta do this together, right? So you did it again. What did you get on the second time?
610. 610.
All right. Hey, that's an improvement. It's not a 720.
Yeah.
Did she help you the second time?
I mean, it was GMAT is so individual. Like it's
yeah.
just that it was.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So all right. So you get the 610. She's got this. Like, is this where are you having conversations like I'm gonna go to school, or she's gonna go to school and you're gonna stay home, or is this like we'll go together, or like what do you? How's this working out? And I mean, it's 2015 by now.
Yeah. I would say like end of 2014.
Okay.
End of 2000. Okay.
Yeah, end of.
Got it.
So now, I mean, like, she was like, we always wanted to go this score. How about I just apply to one school, and if I'm not gonna get into that school, but if and then we'll see like because I'm sure I'm not gonna get into that school.
What school was that?
She applied to HBS.
HBS.
And she got in.
And you're sitting there with a 610. Yeah. And I just want to make sure, like, I have the story right. You and her are actually both at Babson right now.
No.
No?
So she
She
came
did-
here earlier than me. She went to HBS.
Got it. Okay.
And you
So-
stayed, but wait, so she came here, and,
And
you
you
stayed
stayed
in
back.
I
Pakistan
stayed there in like for 9 months.
for 9 months?
Yep.
Okay.
And did you end up quitting your job, or did you?
Yes, I quit my job and then joined my wife here.
Got it. Got it. And she took a sabbatical from P&G.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So all of a sudden it's like you got the 610. She goes, I'm gonna apply. She gets in, and you're like, all right. You don't hold her up from doing it, and then it's like, you know what? I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna go. And so this is the third time you took the GMAT, isn't it?
Oh, actually not, because then I was screw GMAT. I'm not. I think I'm
You don't
not
need the
gonna-
MBA.
Partly it was, I still had it at the back of my mind, but then now I was like, I'm not going to improve GMAT. There is something fundamentally that I'm not able to improve, even though I am working hard, so maybe there's another route to it.
Got it. So when you quit, it was like I'm just gonna go over and I'm gonna work. I'm gonna find a job here, and while she's going to school, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do from there.
So basically, that's when we decided that now, and partly like in retrospect, it worked out well for us because then she came here for school, and then while I continued working, so it kind of, somebody was footing the bill, not as much the bill,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was just, it kind of worked out.
How,
So
how
then
did
we made
how
a deal.
how did you guys pay for it?
She got full ride scholarship.
Right. Okay. So she got a scholarship, and it was like, okay, she can do that, but we just still have to eat and live, and so it was like, okay, I'll keep the job, we'll do that. And when you said, I'm gonna quit my job, did you find a job here before you quit, or you quit and came?
Yeah.
And then did you find a job once you were here?
It was tough because the skill set was not as kind of applied here, but it was because then those 9 months period, it was good for me that I was talking to people here who could help us adjust, and then I started just working out or helping out some of the startups here in Boston.
Yeah, got it. And so you get here. So when did she graduate?
2017.
Okay, and you started 2019, so 2 years. So all of a sudden she's done. Is she staying in Boston? Are you guys staying in Boston, or do you go somewhere?
In Boston.
Where did she go to work?
She goes to Bain.
Oh, she goes to Bain Consulting. So now she travels a lot.
Travels and then yes,
Yeah.
they stays home sometimes.
Got it. And so you're helping startups. And so at what point do you decide, like, I still got to go back and get my MBA? What, like, because you don't have to, like, she's in Bain. She's got an HBS degree. I mean, you got a maid.
Yeah, that's.
You can just leave it on. It's fine. You don't have to turn it off.
Oh, okay.
Just leave it on. So why go back?
It was just because it was my personal kind of dream to go and do my, or I would say like, I would like to believe that it was my personal belief, but it's just that I wanted to do an MBA. Or not at that time. When I came to Boston, then
Yeah.
I realized that there are so many other degrees out there available,
Yeah.
or so many other learning opportunities available,
Yeah.
that maybe MBA is not the right path for me.
Yeah.
Maybe there is some masters of, I'm also like a quant guy, so
Yeah.
I was looking at business analytics or all those
Yeah.
analytics program.
So you're advising companies. Are you looking at these different programs, like
Yeah.
like on the website, going to info sessions? Like what's the search process?
Yeah,
look like?
so I'm just going to, Boston was a good place for us to land up. So I would just go to the seminars, go to the conferences, or just trying to get a foot in the ecosystem here.
Yeah. And so tell me how we landed at Babson. How did we get there?
So, and luckily, like, Babson was the only school that I applied because I did not want to apply to Babson initially.
Because?
Because then when I came here, I realized that I'm more suited towards entrepreneurship. I liked startups and all. And then I was like, it's a cost and benefit.
Yeah.
Do I go and do an MBA, pay that much money, and then end up kind of with loans and then do a startup? But then when I attended a lot of seminars with Babson, met people around Babson, then I realized maybe Babson is the only community that would help me achieve some of the dream.
So what was different about Babson than all the, because you looked at a lot of, I'm sure you looked at BU, you looked at
Yeah.
MIT, you looked at all of them, right? And it's like, I know that but like, what was different about Babson?
Oh, it was just meeting people, the energy about whenever I'm talking to people, they are like, hey, yeah, we're coming from this kind of background. We've worked on different kind of startups. People are starting up companies there.
That's what I hear everywhere. You said the energy. Well, how's the energy really different? Like, if I walked into MIT, how did you feel the energy different at MIT or Harvard than Babson?
Oh, I would say like, because I was also at the Harvard campus, so we were living at Harvard campus, but then it was just the personality fit that I found, or I connected with Babson students or the Babson ecosystem. At Harvard, a lot of people are also talking about PE, VC firms, and then end up working for somebody else. That's not what
So you started to realize as you advised, like, I want to be an entrepreneur, and it's like, okay, how do I do this? It doesn't feel so entrepreneurial at Harvard, but when I go here, they speak this language of entrepreneurship, and it's that the energy is because of the topics that are happening and they're
You actually
they're
see the
networking.
graduates actually doing it. And
So you like, what's the conversation between you and say your wife's name again?
Neza.
Oneza. So you and her, like, how do you say, like, because you're earning money, she's earning money, like, you don't have to do this, and you say, like, all right, I want to go get my MBA now. Like, what's that conversation look like?
I think it was when she came here. That was the arrangement that we had already made. Is when she's gonna come here for school, I'll work, and then now it's my time to go study, and then.
Got it. So we got 10 minutes. So I just want to cover one other part, which is like, so you get accepted, and it's like, I'm in. What are you worried about? What's in your stomach? Like, as your first couple of days of class, you're like, what do you feel like?
Yeah, I mean.
Excited? Was it like, too much? Because again, it's like you haven't studied for a while, right?
So I was definitely worried about, like, how do I, because now it's almost 9 years since I graduated undergrad. So it was, so I actually attended a couple of classes, for different classes at Babson, also other campuses as well.
Yeah.
So that's when, so I was just preparing to get into the study mode. But still, I was nervous during the first week.
So the other part is, as you walked in, what were, like, when you were done, what were you hoping for? Like, this was going to help me. What was Babson really going to help you with?
Develop the skill set or provide me the network that I would require post MBA to build my company.
Can you give me an example of like when you were advising or working with startups, when you were like, gosh, I'm lacking X, and it'll fill it in.
What were you lacking? Yeah. What didn't you have that they were going to give you?
I had never. So how I would like to think about it is, it would be I would say at the end of the day, degree maybe, because that's how I felt as well.
So as long as you have the degree.
My subconscious bias.
So the notion is, if I have the degree, then I can go do a startup.
Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna just sit right here for a second. So, can we go to pushes and pulls? Let's just pull it to the pushes and pulls.
Yeah, sure.
What pushed him to say, I got to go back to school? By the way, how long was that process for him to actually make the decision? 5 years. This is the crazy part, is we look at, like, oh, how did they decide it at, like, right before they got accepted? Like, the thing is people have this process where, and it's not uncommon for people to have like a 4 or 5 year process to think about how to actually go back to school, right? Started 5 years ago. What are some of the pushes?
Wife got into HBS.
So that would be a push. She got in and I didn't, right? What else? Yeah, the ceiling. The whole notion that I got 5 promotions in 6 years, and like, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it past that. And so it's like I think I got to go back to school, right? And so it created that first thought, the hole in, I would say, questions create spaces in the brain for solutions to fall into. It's like, oh, I think I'm going to have to go back and do that. What else? What else pushed him?
There's a big one.
That's right. So he actually felt like he was falling behind and missing out. And so all of a sudden he had that other aspect to it. What else? He had the peer pressure behind it, which is everybody else was learning, which is kind of part of the same thing. But what was happening with the entrepreneurs? He was helping entrepreneurs. He could have continued to help entrepreneurs, but what did he want? He wanted to be one, and what did he feel? He needed to have a degree to be one. And so part of it is this aspect of like, it's time for me to step up, but I can't actually step it up without having this degree and this knowledge, because I know enough, but I don't have the network. And when he saw Babson versus Harvard versus MIT versus Boston colleges, like, these are entrepreneurs. These are my people. These are people that the energy came out. And so part of this is to realize, like, at some point in time, and of course Babson set up for that. But the reality is to know that that as a wannabe entrepreneur walking in, the fact is if you start talking about like, well, let's talk about the financial piece you're going to do and all, like, hook them up with the entrepreneurs. So part of this is the aspect here is the job. What we would say is based on this. Do you know what job you think he's in?
When the interview started, I was thinking extend myself, and then I moved to step it up.
Yeah, step it up because of the delay between it, because he didn't have to go back.
Didn't have to go back.
And the notion is she got hers, and they were stable enough. But the fact is like, I want to start my own company.
There was
and
still
he
a
knew
delay.
something on the other side.
There was still a delay after your wife went back.
So we did over 100 of these interviews, and then talked about both undergrad, grad, workshop. Basically a certification. What causes people to say, I need to go back and get some knowledge? What is it going to do for me? And so the one thing about the job he's in is that this is one of the few jobs where people feel pushed into it, but they have a clear understanding of the other side. Almost very few people have a vague notion of what they're going to do afterwards. And the other part is that there's an aspect of time and that I only have so much more time to basically go back to school. The cool part to me is to hear the anxiety of the GMAT, the anxiety of basically being able to find the right school, the anxiety of all these different things, like, and not studying for 9 years.
Can I add one
Oh,
thing?
please.
One more thing that Babson did was they waived my GMAT.
They waived the GMAT.
Dude, see, that's the solution. But see, this is the point, is that
optional.
you can see the anxiety he had. I took it 3 times, and the moment they said, we don't care about GMAT, we want you to be an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs don't care.
And really, just to double up on that, we see a lot of people when they're designing experiences, they think that they have to add things to solutions. You got to pile on more features and functions and things. And it turns out that if you can just take away some anxiety, you can actually allow and give permission to someone to keep making progress.
So this work we started almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago, right? And the best example of this is Paul LeBlanc at SNHU. He saw these jobs, he understood exactly what it was. How many people basically, like, they tried school, they couldn't get back, they hadn't studied in a while. How do we actually figure out how to get people who have families now and they now have responsibilities, how do we get them to step up to do the next thing? And that's how he built it, was based on this format of jobs and these kinds of interviews. The method itself is built on criminal and intelligence interrogation methods. It's not based on market research of asking people what they want, because he didn't know what he wanted. And part of this is understanding what we call the causal mechanisms. What dominoes had to fall in his life to say, like, I'm going to go back to school, right? Because it's not just money, it's also time. It's the foregoing of income. It's a whole bunch of other things he had to give up. The payment is way more than money. And so part of this is to understand what progress he's really trying to make by saying, I'm going to stop working and go back to school, right? And so part of this is to gather and get the entire story, and to be able to understand the underlying forces at play, and to understand those trigger events that cause people to say, it's time for you to go. Like, my favorite is when he said, like, my friends were going back, and I felt like I should go back too. It's that peer pressure, but that's what we would call passive looking.
And the one thing I'd add on that is a lot of times when we talk in education or any field, frankly, we focus on functional things, right? So that a degree is access to more money or switching jobs or things like that. Social and emotional forces are really deep on people's decision making, and you saw that there. It was functionally, you probably don't need the MBA. But socially and emotionally, they were incredibly important.
And the network, it's a combination of the network, and the other part is the fact is emotionally, the fact when they said that they didn't need the GMAT, you're like, this is for me. Like, I didn't apply anywhere else, not because there wasn't anywhere else. It was like because they knew me, they got me, they understood. And so part of this is being able to understand, how do you design the experience to meet the needs of your students? What happens is we literally think we know what they should learn, but we actually aren't listening to what they want to do. And so part of this is that the book that we wrote is really, to be honest, for the last 30 years, I've been helping companies build better products. But the reality is, I said, I have to actually start to help consumers be better consumers. So the book is actually written for students to read as they decide to go back. And what you'll realize is, as a student, at some point, you're a lifelong learner. And I'm going to go back to go extend myself. I'm going to go back to step it up. I'm going to go back to escape a job. So part of this is you start to realize, you use school as a tool to help you do things in your life. And so the book is actually written not from the supply side or the school side. It's actually all written from the student side.
Last thought I'll make is that a lot of times, and I know we're out of time, but the last point I'll make is, so the last part of the book is from that supply side. What would you do if you're a school?
Yes.
And for all of you, I would say focus is important, right? If Babson is a great example that we cite in the book. If you tried to be all things to all people, you would have totally missed you.
That's right.
Because of all the features that you would have added in that actually would have increased your anxiety and caused you not to go. And so being laser focused on what you're good at and knowing intentionally what you're going to suck at is really important.
Southwest knows they suck at snacks. They don't care. Literally, you're still going to fly. They're good prices. They're on time. They're predictable. You know what it is. Even though you complain about their snacks, you're going to do nothing about it. Know what you suck at.
And we'll end it there. But thank you so much.
I could be up here all day. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, by the way.